Hi, TSP 503. This is the technology assignment on the soul journey of becoming a teacher. We're going to go over the 5 questions asked in the assignment and how they have influenced my decisions of becoming a teacher. So the first one asks is, why have you chosen to become a teacher? In what ways might you understand teaching as a calling? To what extent might you see teaching as a part of your journey and experience connection, community, and wholeness? Um, well, I feel that teaching is definitely a calling in the journey that I've been through. Um, I'm in my graduate program now, and I'm about to turn 30. So I've been in the work industry for the last 10 years, um, but it hasn't been in teaching. I've been in I started out of high school and went over to Iowa and played some college football. Didn't like it over there, came back, tried to do a few different things when I got back, went to community college, tried to go into firefighting, then tried to go into police force. Just didn't really feel like it was for me. I felt like that I've always wanted to give back to others, but it just didn't seem like it was the right fit for myself. So continuing my education, my younger sister actually told me about APU's program and what was going on, what she was doing over there, and told me to look into it. So I did. I applied and I ended up getting in. And I started my bachelor's degree probably back in 2011. And at that time, I was already 23 years old. But then I finished my bachelor's degree and started in the workforce again and got stuck in the service industry for the past probably 10 years of my life. And I've worked my way up through the system, but it just has never been fulfilling for me. It's never provide community or connection. It's never given me wholeness. It's a job for me. It's not a career. It's something that I definitely don't want to do for the rest of my life. And I've been in positions though where I have worked with kids. I have had jobs that directly related to my educational field that were temporary positions and were something that I thoroughly enjoyed and wanted to make a full-time position. In those aspects, I found great connections with individuals such as my co-teachers or my students. The community provided around it was just something so influential. That was something that I just always wanted to be surrounded by. I never felt like I was working when I was there compared to what I'm doing now, and it gave me that real sense of wholeness. As I should be doing this, as this is exactly what God has called me to do. And I think that's why I feel like becoming a teacher is so essential and so promising to me, just because I feel that the more I learn about myself and the skills that I have, that it describes teaching perfectly for me and something that I can provide and give back to students. So the next question we'll go into, it talks about resiliency and talking about a time in my own educational or personal experience which required me to demonstrate resiliency. And how did you manage to remain resilient? I felt like in my educational life, I've always had to be resilient on my own. However, my parents do support education completely. They both are educated and have their master's degrees and have always pushed me and my siblings to really strive for the best as far as the educational standpoint goes, and just to do exactly what we can do. However, for myself, it's always been very difficult for me to receive good grades. I've always tried. I just couldn't ever keep up with the rest of the class. I always felt myself falling behind. But I knew that there was always something that I wanted to do more. And I always pushed myself to continue to try and do more. And I found that through sports and exercise, that if I continued to focus on those, that I would still continue to focus on my education. However, pushing forward into my undergrad, it was a little bit more difficult for me because I was no longer playing sports and I had to learn how to become an actual student and do things on my own as far as making corrections. And it was very difficult for me in the beginning. When I was young, when I was 18 years old and moved away for school, I found it really, really difficult to be alone and to become a student as my own. And it tore me apart. I just couldn't hang in there anymore, and I couldn't do the college thing because I just felt like it wasn't for me and I wasn't smart enough. It took me a while to develop as a student and continue to pursue my educational goals, but I continued to remain resilient in those, and I pushed forward no matter what I did. And it was a lot of help from my family and my parents, who continued to push me and saying that I was going to get it one day, it was going to click. And I graduated from APU, got my bachelor's degree, barely sneaking by with a 2.9, and I got accepted into the APU graduate program a few years later. and was placed onto the academic probation. And I was really scared about it because I thought if I struggled this much in undergrad, how much more I was going to struggle in the graduate program. And it turned out to be the complete opposite. I finally developed as a student, and I figured out how to continue to improve and get better grades and learn on my own. And it was very insightful, and it was very promising to me. And I continue to be excited about the next classes that I take because I want to earn good grades in them. I've always wanted to earn good grades, but the resiliency that I continued to pursue in my education has paid off, and it continues to pay off in what I do. And I'm really excited to see where it continues to take me, and it excites me to pursue my education further and further, despite never being comfortable in my own shoes as a student. I continue to self-doubt myself from whatever I've done before because I've always ended up in failure. But now I find myself ending up in success, and it's been very, very rewarding for myself. So I work full-time now. I manage my time as a graduate student, and I've learned to manage my time effectively and focus on what areas I need to in order to become a good student. So I find myself being a very resilient person when it comes to being a student. And I hope to pass that on one day to my students and show them that, hey, if I'm capable of doing this, it's going to click for you guys one day and it's going to work. And, you know, I've always heard that, but I never thought it was actually going to. So moving forward, we're going to talk about what might be some of the ways that you anticipate having to exercise resiliency as a teacher. So we talked about this before in a different subject in one of the areas, and I found it really insightful when we had to read that article. And there was a few good things in there. And it was talking about emotional resiliency and how difficult it probably can be, and the maturity levels and the differences between it, and how we can exercise them as teachers. And I can see myself in this category. I think most males, just an authoritative position, we can be very quick to anger. In demonstrating what we do. It's not, and I talked about it as well, that it's not wrong to get angry. It's fine to get angry. But it's what we do in that anger that God commands us, that what we do in that anger is what ends up happening. So if we're angry and we sin in that anger, if we do something in our anger to hurt our student and give them a negative impact or give them there was something wrong the way that we instruct them negatively, they're going to have a bad experience and they're not going to enjoy what they're doing. And that's something that definitely I know that I'm going to need to work on. As a future PE teacher and a coach, that what I do, I need to think about it before I do it. Have that emotional resiliency and be able to exercise the right emotions at the right time in order to provide the emotional needs for my students and my athletes as well. Because it's not just education anymore. We need to grow our entire student as an individual and not just look at them as a student. We're looking at them as people, as little human beings, because that's exactly what they are. And we're bringing them up and we're helping them because we're with them more than we are, the more time than their family actually is with them. We spend a lot of time with these kids, and we have a big influence on that time that we're with them, and we can really make positive impacts educationally and provide a stable emotional environment for those students to continue to grow and learn as individuals. So in that, it really intersects with my faith as a teacher, though, as well, because I mean, without faith, I believe that I just couldn't teach. I just feel like I couldn't exercise patience. I couldn't exercise love for another person because God provides that for me as an individual. And the only reason why I can transfer that on or pass that on to another individual is because of Him. And I strongly believe that because without Him, I just wouldn't be here. His love is sufficient enough for me. His grace is enough. And the only reason why I continue to push forward is because of Him. So let's move forward. Talk about how have there been any significant cultural beliefs or experiences which have influenced your desire to become a teacher? Has your understanding or experiences in matters related to social injustice had an impact on your decisions to become a teacher? And if so, how? Completely. My cultural beliefs and experiences, I'm Hispanic. I've noticed a few things differently when I was at APU, and I would just go to student teaching or like offsite things with undergrad students. And, I would always we go to the surrounding schools in Azusa, and I noticed the kids would flock to me. And I didn't understand why at first. And I talked to my mom about it, and she's like, well, it's because you look like them. And I was like, yeah, you know what? You're right. I'm a Hispanic kid. Well, I'm a Hispanic adult to them, and they see me as a role model because they don't just see me as a teacher. They would call me teacher, but they would see me as something more. And I noticed it from certain individuals more than others. But it made a huge impact on me, and in my decision of where I want to work. I mean, God willing, I'm placed anywhere, but God willing that I'm placed in an environment that needs me and can use my talents and my social and cultural beliefs to help others like myself, to help influence young lives who want to get out of poverty, who want to get out of a place where, just somewhere that they don't want to be, and become someone that they do want to be. It's hard thinking about it because I know who I am, and to know that somebody wants to be like me is a scary thing because you know who you are and the thoughts that you have and different things and the beliefs that you have. And you hope to shed that light onto them to give you the best of who you are so that one day they can be the best of who they are. It's inspiring. It really is, but it's scary at the same time because you want to remain that example and you want to continue to be that example, just as Christ is the daily example to us. And because of those social environments and the experience that I've been able to be around, I would love to be placed in a Title I school. I'd love to work in inner cities, and I'd love to impact those students as much as possible, because I believe that I can really help, but not just do it, for the sake of doing it, but because I want to be there, because I truly want to be there, and I really want to help those individuals because I believe that they're worth so much more than what they've been told or what they've been taught growing up as students. Lastly, how might your current educational philosophy have been impacted by your own educational experience to K-12, by your experience thus far at APU? APU has done an amazing job so far at helping me build my personal philosophy, and that's based completely around differentiation. When I first started the program, I really didn't know what differentiation was. I just thought it was different ways to teach students. It's not. Plain and simple, it's a philosophy. It's a basis and a foundation to build a program that includes all students, every single one of them, and educates them both physically and emotionally. It's an environment to take care of these kids and bring them in to a place that they feel safe and can remain safe always, and not be afraid to raise their hand and not be afraid to be picked on, but a place where that they can exercise their talents, exercise their minds as youth to catapult them into something greater than themselves, to build community. And I believe that's exactly what differentiation is, and I believe that's what APU has taught me. I would never experienced such an educational journey if it wasn't for APU. I would never have known how to learn how to dissect the Bible, how to dissect myself as a student and grow both spiritually and educationally. I would never have done it without APU. My high school experiences were a little bit more difficult for me because they were very rigorous at a young age, and it was hard for me to keep up. But I've always tried to stick to doing right by God and doing right by my parents. And, and not until I got to APU where I figured out I'm going to start doing right by myself because of the love of God and what he exercises for me. And this is the entire journey that I've been through so far. And I can't wait because I know that this is just the beginning. And this is something that's going to continue to push forward. And I feel like if I continue to pursue God's word as intently as I pursue this journey of education, that he's going to open up doors for me that I can't even imagine. And I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to uh, going on to the next chapter of my education, to provide for another, and provide in a new setting for other people, to give back to what God has given to me and what APU has provided for me. Thank you, guys.